When you have a very large Excel dataset that is very, very messy, and maybe you want to just get a summary of part of that data and even create table and create visual effects that will make anybody who is not an expert in data analysis to understand you very, very well. For example, if it's maybe sales data or marketing data, then you want just to pull and show people how each and every account manager or how each and every sales representative has performed over the past 12 months and also across various cities. Then you are going to be able to do it using data visualization. Now, this is the backbone of reporting. You can have everything, but without a proper data visualization on Excel, you will not be able to make an effective storytelling to the audience. Now, in this tutorial, we are going to base our discussion on ultimate data visualization using tables. That is the first one. We are going to use the normal tables, where under the normal tables, we are going to look at how to automate your data and even your data entry using the normal tables. Then after that, we are going to see how we can summarize data based on whatever thing that we want using pivot tables. Then after that, we are now going to start creating more powerful visual effects using what we call the pivot charts. Then we are again going to look at how we can now apply the filter. Yes, how we can apply the filter tools to these pivot tables and even the normal tables using what we call the slicers. And under the pivot tables, we are also going to look at how we can perform various forms of uh, formatting, how we can even perform some kind of calculations across various pivot tables. So guys, make sure that you stay with me up to the end so that we can get to understand how exactly this one works. So the very, very first step, I'm going to start with creating the normal table, and I'm going to show you how to format that table and even how to automate your data entry using this normal table. So this is our first step in this case. Remember, all these things are going to be put together. So let us just do a recap of what we are going to look at. The first one is creating normal tables, formatting the normal table, and looking at how we can automate our data entry and many other things using these normal tables. Then the second one, we are going to look at now how to create pivot tables and use the pivot tables to summarize data from very large data sets. Also how to perform calculations across these pivot tables and even how to format them. Then three, we are going to look at how to create now the pivot charts from the pivot tables. Then the last one, we are going to look at how to use slicers now to apply the filter effects to these pivot tables and even pivot charts. So let's start with the first one. The first one is how to create normal tables. Normal tables, you have a data like this. We have three main ways through which you can create your normal table. The first one, you just click into that data range where you want to create your data, your table. Then you are going to come at the top. You are going to look for the insert button or the insert tab. When you click on the insert tab, you are going to see a table option. This is what you want, so you are just going to click on that. Then when you click on that, you can see the whole data range. The whole of this range has been selected. That shows you that the whole of that range is going to be converted to a table. Then when you look at where is the data from your table, you are going to see that the whole of this range has been selected. Then something else that we need to look at in this case is whether your table has headers. Yes, if you say that it has headers, then the first row of that data range is going to be converted to the headers. Yes, or the headings for each and every column of that table. Then if we are now contented with that, we're just going to click OK. Then you can see the table has been created. Yes, the table has been created, but then there's things that we can now change. First, we can start by changing the table design. When you want to change the table design, you are just going to come up to the end. Then you are going to see the table design option. Then at the bottom, you are going to see what we call the table styles. Then when you click on the drop-down arrow, you are going to see now a large number or a large range, a wide range of options that you can choose from. If you want to change your table style, maybe you want to make it green like this, you can click on that. You can click on all these things that you want. You can click into any that you want. Now in this case, let us go back to what we had. Something else about the tables, you can come to here. Now we have the table style options. If you say that you do not want the header row, you can just untick it, then it is going to disappear. That simply means that you have this table, but you do not want the first row that contains the headers or the headings of each and every column. Now, when we click it again, you can see it is just going to return. Yes, something else under the table style options, we have the total row. The total row is normally found at the bottom. Yes, the total row is found at the bottom. And now this is what the total row is supposed to help us. The total row is supposed to help us by summarizing this data. For example, by giving us where we have the numerical figures, it is supposed to enable us to get the sum, the average, the count, and any other thing that we want. Let us see how it works. You go click on the total row, then you are going to see another row has been added. Then we are just going to expand this one. Then now let us come here. When you click on the last row and also the last column in that case, you are going to see a drop down arrow. When you click on that drop down arrow, you are going to see everything that we need that we can use to summarize this data. So you click on it, you can see the first one is none. You click on none, there is nothing that is going to be displayed there. When you come to average, we are going to get the average of that particular column. When you come to count, it is going to count the total number of those rows. Yes, rows in that table. Count numbers, it is just going to count those columns or rows that contain numerical values. Maximum, it is going to give us the largest or the highest value from that particular column. Minimum, it is the opposite, the lowest. When we come to the sum, it is going to give us the total of all the numerical values in that particular column on that table. Then we have the standard deviation, the variance, and any other thing. Now, with this row and with the total row option, you can do a lot of things and more powerful calculations. And it is not only that, even if you just want in another different column, you can just come here and you are going to see the same thing. Now, if you do not want this to continue, you will just come back here and uncheck that total row box. And now this is where we say that you can actually automate the data entry in your table or in your Excel spreadsheet by just creating a table. For example, if you wanted to add something, a column here with the very similar entries, what you'll do, you just uncheck the total row box, then you add whatever you want to add, then you will come back here. Let's say you want to add something like 50. You're just going to see that a new column is going, or a new row is going to be added, just like that. And that is how it is going to grow. That is how it is going to grow. This is how it is going to grow. Yes, that is how it is going to grow. And this is why we said you can easily automate your data entry on Excel spreadsheet by just creating that Excel table. Yes, guys, we are done with that option. Let us go back. Yes, we have seen what the header row does, the total row option does, the branded rows. If you want to do away with the branded rows, we'll just uncheck. You can see all the branded rows are gone. If you want them back, you click there. Then we have the first column. Yes, if you want the first column to be more pronounced, like maybe all the figures in the first column to be in bold, then we are just going to check into the first column box. If you want the last column to be bold or more pronounced, again, we are going to check into that. If you want branded columns, we are going to check on that. Then at that point, we can now remove the branded rows. Now, this is exactly what you are going to do. At least you have seen how we can now visualize our data on Excel spreadsheet using Excel tables. We said that there are so many ways through which you can create Excel tables from data ranges. Actually, we had three main ways. We have looked at the first way, where we just click into that data range. You come to insert, then you choose table. Let me show you the two other shortcut ways through which you can do it. Now, first, let us do away with this. Let us convert this data back from table to range. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to change the table style. Then I'm going to convert to range option. Then just like that, it is gone. We don't have something like a table. So the second option is by clicking on Control key on your keyboard. Then while still holding the Control key, you will click on T. That is the keyboard shortcut. Yes. And again, you have your table. Again, let us do away with this table so that we can look at the last way through which we can create a table. Again, our table is gone. The last way is again through a keyboard shortcut. Control key on your keyboard. Then while still holding the control key, you will click L. But the first one we clicked Control plus T. The second one we are clicking Control plus L. Both of them are going to give you the same result. We are done with that. Now let us come to where we are creating pivot charts. And we have seen what pivot charts do. Not pivot charts, but pivot tables. They actually summarize your data. You have a very large data set, maybe a data set with more than 500,000 rows, with very, very many columns, very, very many people, very many entries. Maybe you have 1,000 sales representatives or 100 sales representatives, and out of the 100 sales representatives, you just want the top 10 sales representatives in terms of the volume of sales they made, maybe over the last 12 months. That is not a summary that you are going to be able to give by just looking at the data and maybe entering those values manually. You are going to do this by using what we call pivot tables. Now let us see how to create the pivot tables. These are some of the examples of the pivot tables. Let us have a look. Now guys, let me give you an overview of this data and exactly the kind of summary which we would like to get. Here on this column, this is column I, you can see we have a number of account managers. These are the account managers, and these account managers are the sales representatives. Now with the account managers, what we are interested for each and every account manager is the total sales for the period, for a specified period of time. Yes, when you come here, you can see the subtotal. Yes, when you come here, you can see the order total. Then when you come here, you can see the total. Now what we are interested in is the total. For each and every account manager, we want to see what is the total volume of sales he or she made over a period of time or for the whole period. Now that is what we are going to start with. For you to create a pivot table, you click into that table or into that data range. Then you come to the Insert tab. Then the first option here is the pivot table. You can see we have a drop-down arrow. You are just going to click on it. Then here you have two options, either to create a table or to create from table or range or to create from external data source. We want to create from a table or range because we already have that data here. We are not creating it from external data source. So we go with the first option. When you go with the first option, now this is the window that opens. The first one, it is going to show us the table or the range. It is table 3 because this table was just named table 3. Then here we have two options, whether to place our pivot table in a new worksheet or in an existing worksheet. When you say on a new worksheet, then a new worksheet is going to be automatically created. If you say on existing worksheet, then it is going to be created, or the pivot tables are going to be created on the same worksheet where we have our data. We want to go with the new worksheet. And because we are not adding this to the data model, we are not going to check that add this data to the data model box. So we click OK. Now when you click OK, you can see a new worksheet has been created and there is a placeholder that has been created where it is just showing you that this is where you can place your pivot table. We have said the very first thing that we need to know is the total volume of sales that were made by each and every account manager. Now, when we come to the pivot table, guys, we have various fields. We have what we call the pivot table fields. And these pivot table fields are what normally help us to now create these pivot table summaries. We have 4 pivot table fields. The first field is the filter field, the columns field, the rows field, and the values field. Let me start with the values field. Anything that is in form of the numerical value normally move to the values field. Let me come to the columns field. Anything under the columns field, we can actually drag anything into the columns field. Under the rows field, anything that is in form of a character will always move to the rows field. Then under the filters field is where we now want to filter our data based on a particular criteria. This is where we are going to place those items that we want to use to filter our pivot tables. Now let me start. Because we have said that anything that is in a text form is supposed to be moved to the rows field. Let me look for the account managers. You can see we have the account manager here. We're just going to click on that. Then you can see the account manager has automatically moved to the rows field. And you can see now they are all here. The account managers have all been displayed here. Then the next one, we want to get the total sales volume. Again, we click, you can see some of the total, it has automatically been moved to the values field because all those values are in form of numerical values. Yes. And from there, you can see we already have the summary. For each and every account manager, we can tell what was the sales volume for each and every account manager. Now, something else we need to do, we need to format this data of this sum of total sales so that we can know what is the number. Actually, we want them to be separated using comma, and even we are supposed to reduce the number of decimal points. Now, you are just going to click on any cell within that particular pivot table, then right click, then we are going to go to where we have the format cells. Let's say for format number, Yes, guys, and here we are. What we want to do, we want to format this particular data, and it is number formatting. We want to reduce the number of decimal points to 2. We have reduced it to 2. Let's reduce it to 2. Then we are going to check it to that box beside where we have use 1000 comma separator. I just want to click on that, then click OK. Then you can see everything has changed. Then something else that I want you to understand with this particular thing is this. The default operator here is the sum, but remember we have other options. If we want to get the average for each and every account manager, we are able to get that. If we want to get maybe the count for each and every account manager, we are able to get that. If we want to get the maximum sales for the whole period for each and every account manager, we are again able to get that. Even if we want to get the minimum or the lowest sales for each and every account manager for the whole period, again, we are able to get that. Let's see how it works. Now, this is where we now want to change from sum of the total to average of the total or maximum. Again, you click into one cell or any cell within that particular column where we have the numerical figures. Then you are going to come to where we have the pivot table fields. You are going to click into that sum of the total. Then at the very, very bottom, you are going to see we have value field settings. You are going to click on that. Then now a window like this is opening, and you can see here we have a number of options. Now from here we can choose what we want. You can see the first one is sum, the second one is count, the third one is average. Let's say we are interested in getting the average sales for each and every account manager. Let's go with that, then okay. You can see we already have the average sales for every account manager. Let's say we do not want the average, but we want the maximum and the minimum. Again, you can just right click, then you come to where we have the value field setting. Then we have the maximum. We want to see what is the highest sale made by each and every account manager for that period. And you can see these are the highest sales made by each and every account manager for the whole period. Again, let us right click. We come to the value field settings. Now we want to get the minimum, the smallest or the lowest values, volume of sales made by each and every account manager for the whole period. We go to the minimum. Then you can see this is what we have. Let us check the last one. In our case, you can always take your time and check each and every one of them. Want to get the count numbers. What was the total number of sales made by each and every account managers? We are going to come to count. And you can see now Ayanzang, the first one, had 70, 47, 161, like that, like that. Let us see something else. Now, maybe if you want to see those, like we want this data to be arranged like this, those who made the highest, that particular sales representative who made the highest number of sales is supposed to be at the top. Then the one who made the lowest number of sales supposed to be at the bottom. Then this is what we are going to do. We are just going to do the normal filters or the normal sorting. We are going to click into one of the cells. Then we are going to come to the data tab. Then here we have sort option. We are sorting now from the largest to the smallest. If we want it to be on the other way around, we are going to sort from the smallest to the largest. Now let us choose it, revert it to sum so that we can work well with it. Yes, we are here, guys. Something else that we want to know about this particular pivot table is how we can summarize our data. There are so many ways through which we can summarize our data. Let us just go and look at how we can summarize our data. Apart from just having these discrete features or these discrete figures, there's a way we can summarize this data in a much better way, in a way that gives much better visual effects. Let us right click. When you right click, you can see we have here two options. The first one is to summarize values by, then the second one is to summarize values as. Let us start with the first one, summarize values by, and this one we have looked at it. Summarize values by count. It is giving us the number of sales made by each and every account manager. Summarize values by average. It is giving us the average sales every account manager. Summarize values by maximum, the maximum number, we have looked at this. Summarize values by the minimum number, we have looked at this as well. Summarize values by, you can go to more options, then you can choose from all these. Now that is what we have. Now let's say that we want to summarize these values by sum. Yes, that's okay. Now let us look at the second option. We want to summarize these values as, first one is no calculation. The second one is to summarize these values by percentage of the grand total. When we summarize by percentage of grand total, then we are going to see what percentage of the total sales each and every sales representative is actually contributing. You can see the first one here is contributing only 0.59%, while the last one is contributing around 13.01%. That is exactly what we are talking about. We are able to see what percentage of the total sales each and every account manager is contributing. Let's look at something else. Summarize values by percentage of the total column or column total. Again, this is what we have. We are going to look at more about summarizing values by when we will have created a pivot table with more columns. Let us now look at how to create a pivot table with more columns. Let us convert this back to what we had. Summarize these values by no calculations. Now guys, we have seen how we can summarize these values, so that we can be in a position to get the total sales volume for each and every account manager. But remember, there's something that we have not done. These are sales across various months and even across various years. We have not looked into that. How about if you want to know exactly how much sales or the volume of sales made by each and every account manager for each and every year? For example, if it was from year 2016 to year 2020, then we are supposed to know in year 2016 what was the sales volume for the first account manager. Then how about year 2017, year 2018 up to year 2020? Now this is what we are going to do next. Now what we are looking for here is the order year. Then this order year now is supposed to be placed under the columns field. And you can see, no. Why is it behaving like that? Yes, we have placed it under the columns field so that it is able to tell us from year 2013 to year 2017 what was the volume of sales made by each and every account manager. Now we can see very well for the first account manager, that is TV Bakata. 2013, this is what he did. 2014, this is what he did. 2015, this is what he did. 2016, 2017, then the grand total we have here. Then this applies to all other account managers. That is exactly how we get all these other columns using the columns field. Now from here we can now easily create or summarize this data in a way that we want. Now let's see. We show values as grand total. Again, you can see for Steve Bakata for 2013, this is what he contributed to the whole sales volume, whole sales percent, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Then the grand total contribution for the first account manager is this one. Then the second one, the third one. Then at the end of it, we are supposed to arrive at 100%. Let us look at something else. We want to show these values as percentage of column total. And this is what happens. Each and every column is supposed to add up to 100% in this case. The first one, each and every column, all the columns were supposed to add up to 100%, but in this case, each and every column, individual columns are supposed to add up to 100%, each one of them. So for like 2013, we are supposed to go up to 100%. We are only focusing on 2013. Same to 2014 up to 2017. Then we have again the grand total. That is when we summarize values at percentage of the column total. Let's look at the third one, percentage of row total. This is what happens. Now, all the rows are supposed to add up to 100%. This is for every account manager. We want to see. In 2013, the first account manager made the highest sales volume. Then 2014, this is what he did, 2015, 2016, 2017. Then all of them are supposed to add up to 100%. Let us look at another one. Let's say percentage of the parent row column. And this is what we have again. Now guys, at your own time, you can always come here and just play with these figures. See how you can always show values as, and how you can also summarize values as running total, a percentage of parent column total. All this you can actually look at how they are working. Now let me come back and just summarize them with no calculation. I have my data back. Now something that I want us to look at again is here. Let me come to where we have the pivot table design. Then let me come to where we have the subtotals. Yes, you are told you can fail to show the subtotals or the grand totals. If you say that off for rows and columns, then we are not going to have the grand totals for the rows and the grand totals for the columns. They are all gone. You only have your data. If you want them back, you can on for rows and columns the grand total. Then you can on for rows only. You are only going to have for rows but not for columns. Again, you can on for columns only. The ones for rows are gone. So let us on for both rows and both columns. Where you have the subtotals, again, this is how you are going to deal with it. You are going to now choose the subtotals option. Then the third one, we have the report layout. We have various ways through which you can have your pivot table laid out. The first one is by showing it in a compact form. That is what we already have. The second one is showing it in outline form. Now it will appear like that. The third one is by showing it in tabular form. You can see now it is in a tabular form. The fourth one is by repeating all the items. And you can see, do not repeat. Now let us go back to our compact form. Now here we have looked at various pivot table fields. We have looked at how we can work with the rows, how we can work with the values field, how we can work with the columns field. But we have not looked at how we can work with the filters field, and also how we can actually move values from one field to another and even remove that field. Now, if you want to move values from one field to another, this is what you do. You will just come to the bottom of that field, click into that drop down arrow. You are going to see remove the field. If you want the field to be removed completely, just click on remove the field. You can see we do not have the field, and on our pivot table we do not have those figures. Yes, it was the total. We can just take it back. We have it back. If you want to move that value from one field to another, you will just move it. You can move it to the column labels, you can move it to the row labels, you can move it to the filters label. Let me move it to the filters label. You can see it has moved to the filter labels, and therefore right now we have this drop down arrow, and you can see all the figures that we have. This is what filters field does. Let me move it back to values field, and we have it there. Now guys, up to this point, I believe I have shown you some of the basics of creating a table, automating the data entry process, doing many other things, as well as creating pivot table, using it to summarize data, how you can present your data in very many ways in terms of percentages, how you can format your data, how you can add other fields like the columns, and how you can actually present your pivot table in a much better way. We are going to continue with the last pivot table field, and that is filters. We have looked at it. Now for the filters field, this is what it does. Let us say that here we have all these sales representatives, but all these sales representatives made their sales across various cities or across various states. Now we want to filter them with various states or various cities. Like if you have 3 cities, we want to know for Ayanzan, what was the total value of sales made in only one city? Or what was the total value of sales or volume of the sales volume made by all these sales representatives in one city and for each and every city? Now that is where the filters field is going to come. Let's see, we have city. Yes, we have city. Let us just drag it and place it there. Now we have the city. Now whenever you place anything under the filters field, a filters button is normally added at the top of that pivot table, and you can see it has been named city. Here we have all. Now you are supposed to click on that drop down arrow. Then you have here, you can see here we have all the cities. We have only 3 cities: Melbourne, Perth, and Sydney. Let us click on that. Then now we want to only see the sales volume made by all these sales representative for Melbourne City. That is what we are going to do. You are going to check into that box beside the Melbourne City. Then you are going to click OK. You can see it is giving you the total sales volume made by all the account managers for Melbourne City. And you can see for Melbourne City, we only have, or we only had 2 account managers or sales representatives who made sales in that particular Melbourne City. If you want to do away with that filter, you just come here, do away with it. Maybe I want now to find for path. Again, you are going to just find for path. Again, you are going to see the total here, the grand total, and you are going to see all the sales representatives who were able to make sales in that particular city, that is path. Let me come to the last one, that is Sydney. We want to see the total sales volume made in Sydney city, and we also want to see all those account managers who were able to make sales in Sydney. You can see Sydney had the highest number of sales representatives who made sales there, and also it had one of the biggest sales volume compared to other cities. Let us find now for various states. Now we have for various states, and you can see again for states we only have 3 states. We have the New South Wales, we have the VIC, and we have this one WA. What we want to do now, we want to select all these cities. Then we want to create separate separate reports for each and every city or for each and every state. So we are going to click on the box where we have the select multiple items box. Then you can see all of them have been selected. Then you are going to click OK. Then once you do that, there's something else that you're supposed to do. We are going to click on the design or the pivot analyze. Yes, after we have done that, we are going to click on the pivot table analyze. Then we are going to come to where we have the pivot table, just the first option. We are going to click on the drop down arrow. Then we look for what we are looking for, the options. You click on that. Then here you can see we have an option to show report filter pages. That is what we want. We click on show report filter pages, and the report filter pages are for state. And when you do that, you are going to see all the reports for all the cities that we have, or for all the states that we have been displayed at the bottom, and each and every one of them has been placed in a different worksheet. The first one is the New South Wales, the second one is the VIC, the third one is the WA. Now that is exactly how we work with the pivot tables in this simple manner. Let us look at something else. This is what we are looking at now. We are coming to the end of creating pivot tables and summarizing data with pivot tables, but there's something that is very, very important. Let us say that we want to calculate, let's say that we want to calculate the commission that is going to be earned by each and every account manager. And let us say the commission that is supposed to be earned by each and every account manager is supposed to be 20% of the total sales made by each and every one of them. Now, for the pivot table, it is very, very tricky. I know if it was just a normal table, we would have just say it is equal sign the total sales times 20% or 0.2, and we could have gotten what we wanted for each and every account manager by just copying this formula down. Yes, this is what was going to happen. Yes, actually this is what is supposed to happen, but there is a problem. There is a problem here. If this is what is going to happen, then we have a problem. Let us just try to maybe filter this data. When we try to filter this data, you realize that there's something that is going, this data is not going to remain the way we want it. There are some values that are going to remain hanging like this. This is not something that we want. Let us go to another city like VIC. You can see again a lot of things are hanging, and this is not something that is supposed to be happening. If we had used the right formula, then all these other cells were supposed to be just empty. Let us look at some other filter. Again, that is another problem that we have. Now let us do away with them. Now instead of doing this, I want us to use what we call the calculated fields. What we are actually supposed to use here is the calculated fields option. Now I'm going to click into this cell. I'm going to click into that pivot table. Then I'm going to click into the pivot table analyze tab. Then under the calculations, you can see we have the first option, fields, items, and sets. I'm going to click on the drop-down arrow. Then you can see the first option is calculated field. That is what I'm looking for. You do that, then a new window like this opens. Here we have the name. The name is the name that we are going to give to that column, because it's another column that is going to be added just next to the grand total column. And now this, let's call it the commission paid or commission earned. Then here we have our formula. Now our formula is supposed to be the grand total. It is supposed to be total. Then you click insert field. Then next, now you can say times 0.2. That is now okay. Then you add. Then after adding it, you are going to click OK. Now from here, guys, you can see what we are looking for. It has given us the commission earned by each and every account manager for the whole period, and also for each and every month, or for each and every year. Let's see. We have, like for 2013, we have the sum of the commission earned. For the first one, you can see 20% of 20,296.34. This is what the commission this person earned, and for each and every account manager. Then for 2014 again, these are the total sales and these are the total commission earned. This has come up to 2017. Then we have the grand total, the total sum of the commission earned. That is exactly how we work with this. Now let me go and try to apply that filter that I was applying and see how this happens. Now when I apply that filter, you will not see anything hanging. Let me come back here again. VIC. Again, you can see there is nothing hanging. There is nothing hanging, and that is now the power of applying calculated fields on these particular pivot tables. Now let us move to the third the third stage where we were to create pivot charts. I just want to give an introduction to pivot charts, then slicers. But just before I forget, guys, now if you want to do away with whatever calculated field that you had created, you just again click into one of the cells within that particular pivot table. Then you come back to where we have your pivot table analyze tab. Then again, you go to the fields, items, and sets, calculated field. Then here you want to delete something. Yes, there is something that you want to delete. And whatever you want to delete is the commission. And remember, that new column that has been created will always be placed at the bottom of this particular field. So you are just going to click on that, insert. Let's say that is it, insert. Yes, let us come back again a bit. You go to where we have the pivot table analyze tab, then we have the fields, items, and sets. The drop down arrow, the calculated field. Then where we have the name is where we are supposed to have that commission. And you click on the drop down arrow, you are just going to click on the commission, and then it is going to give you the formula that we had created. Now this is what you delete. Then okay, then you have your data back. Now let us create pivot chart. We just want to create a very simple pivot chart. And whatever pivot chart that we want to create here, let's say, let us just remove this one. We want to create a very simple pivot chart. Or rather, let us create a very simple pivot chart. And in this case, we just want to create a pie chart. So we click into any cell within that pivot table. Then we click on the pivot table analyze. Under the pivot table analyze, just at the bottom, we have pivot charts. You have the recommended pivot tables and the pivot charts. Now we want the pivot chart. We click on the pivot chart. Then here we have recommended pivot charts. What we are looking for is the pie chart. Yes, that is what we want. Then here we have it. Again, the same thing that are appearing on the pivot table are the same thing that are appearing on the pivot charts. For example, we can still filter this data using the state from our pivot charts and not pivot tables. We only want to see VIC. That is what we will have. It is very simple and very fun. If we are only going to do it from the pivot chart, then even the pivot tables are going to change. Let us filter again at the pivot chart level. Even the pivot table is going to change. Then again, we have the account managers. We may decide that we again want to filter using the account managers. Let's say that we only want the first one, this one, and this one. Again, everything is going to change. But let me do away with the state first, because yes, let me do away with that filter. Now this is what you can see we have here. Now let us give it some simple or basic design. You can decide to change it. can give it a title name. We can do other things that we normally do for a table. Chart title, we can give data labels. Don't want that. Legends are here. Again, under legends, we can decide where we want them to appear. They are now appearing at the right. We can decide they appear at the top. We can decide they appear at the left. At the bottom, we have more options. Let us put data labels. Let them appear at the top, the left, bottom, more options. You can also do the chart title. If you do not want it, you can just leave it at that. Now let's come here. Let me remove that filter from the account manager, and again we have everything. Now I have removed the filters from the account manager because I want us to look at how we can apply the slicers filter now instead of the normal filters. Now for you to add the slicers, what are you supposed to do? You click into that table, you come to, we have here format. Yes, we have the format, we have design, and we have the pivot table analyze. Now under the pivot chart analyze, we have insert slicers. Yes, insert slicers, and then it is going to ask us, what do we want to insert? In my case, I want to insert only 2 slicers. First, one for city, then second, one for account manager. Then now I have 2 slicers. I can bring them here. The first one is for the state, then the second one is for the account manager. Now this is what happens. If I am going to filter this data based on the state, let's say I only want data from NC or New South Wales, that is what I'm going to have. Then if I want to remove this filter, I'm just going to click on that X. If I want to, the one for VIC, that is what I'm going to have. Again, this is how I'm going to remove it. If I want the one for WA, that is what I'm going to click. Again, that is how I remove it. If I want the one for now specific account managers, I'm going to click on the first one, if that is what I want. Then I'm going to click on the control key on my keyboard. Then I can now move to the second one I want, third one, up to the last one that I want. And there I have them. Again, this is how I can remove all of them. Now guys, that brings us to the end of our discussion. Our discussion has been on how to visualize Excel spreadsheet data. First, by using normal tables, where we have seen you can use normal tables now to summarize your data very fast. By first using a keyboard shortcut Ctrl+T, Ctrl+L, or by creating directly from the insert tab. Then we have also seen the normal tables normally help us to automate our data entry process. Then the second one, we have looked at how to summarize our data using the pivot tables, and we have also seen how powerful pivot tables can be. Then we have looked at how we can now visualize these summaries now using the pivot charts. And lastly, we have seen how we can filter both the pivot tables and the pivot charts using the slicers.